timeline. And what's even scarier is they know all the fucking timelines of all the sequels. It's like, how does everyone, I guess the question here is, should the sequel writer always honor the original timeline?
Yes. New Halloween people. Your brother and sister, I hate to tell you.
I mean, to use, once again, to go back to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, what are there, 7 timelines in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies? You know, and I mean, you can always honor the timeline by doing the prequel, right? The prequel's not going to piss anybody off. But after you get to like the 3rd movie, any screenwriter who can honor the timeline in the 3rd movie, you're a genius. All right, so
Are you already at number 1?
No. Timeline perfection. How many believe in that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
And
it's not the guy who died, man.
How many people think it doesn't even matter if it's a great, if it has a great story? Okay, so I think that's like,
That's more than I think it
I think
should
that's like, you know, I think the vote is for, you know, you timeline perfectionists are kind of full of shit.
But someone explain your point of view. Why doesn't it matter to you?
I feel like it depends. Like both of those statements are true. Both
Both?
statements are true because it depends. Wait, what?
Both sides are true.
We're like,
Well, you have to pick one.
if the movie is great, then
Then you
it
just don't care.
ignores shit, then who gives a fuck because the movie's great.
I give a fuck.
If
I
they're
give a
able
fuck.
to tie it in, it's better. But I'm not gonna hate it if it's not. I don't know. To me, it depends on the film, case by case.
I guess the best example would be David Gordon Green going back to the original timeline. It's like he was very insistent, wanted everyone to know that he was going back and starting his movie right at the end of Halloween 2, right?
Beginning.
1.
Halloween 1?
Yeah.
Oh, so he didn't even do the Jamie Lee Curtis goes to the hospital.
Yeah, that's not
Okay.
I think that makes my case.
Well,
I think that's why timelines need to be respected.
so you can stay honest with the timeline as long as you eliminate several,
Yes, throw it out.
several other movies and act like they don't exist. Okay. All right, now this is the one that I think really gets annoying. I've put this as number 1. These can be in any order, but that was not the first one. That was not the first movie of that time. There was a 1912 silent film. It's lost now. We just have photographs of it. But they did that in 1912, you know, Bird with the Crystal Plumage is not the first Giallo. Blood and Black Lace is the first Giallo. No, it's not. The Girl Who Knew Too Much is the first Giallo. And you know, because it has all the Giallo, you know, tropes in it. And the first one didn't have all the tropes. You know, the first real Giallo was this one. You know, and so this is the kind of argument that can go on forever. And no matter which one you believe is the first, someone will come up and say, nope, 1936 in Milwaukee. There was this movie. Nobody's seen it. You know, there's only one print of it. You know, and so the question should not be what was the first of anything. The question should be, what is the foundation film that created a genre? Or what is the foundation film that created a style of filmmaking? Or what is the foundation film that no one can ignore because it exists? You know, I would say like Night of the Living Dead, that's not the first zombie film, but it's the first one that we care about because it's the one that created a type of zombie that still lives today. you know? And so, anyway, does anyone have any strong opinions about this?
What's the first slasher?
No, Dude, I'm still getting so much mail on that.
The first slasher, well, we tried to talk about this in the show that we had, and I thought the first one that had all the tropes of the slasher is actually Sergio Martino's Torso. But I don't think many filmmakers in the 70s were watching Sergio Martino's Torso and saying, I'm gonna, you know, I don't know, we should ask John Carpenter. Did you see Torso before you made Halloween? I doubt if he did, really, because it was not, you know, it was a grindhouse movie. I don't think that many people saw it. But so if you want to just pick the one that has all the tropes in it, that one has all the tropes in it. But I think you have to say it's probably Halloween. Because, I mean, I think that's the foundation film that caused other people to want to make that type of film. So, anybody have any strong
Somebody's
opinions?
going to argue about that. Who
Anybody
wants to
have
take
any
it?
strong opinions about that one? Yes, here's... What?
Black Christmas.
Black Christmas, in my opinion, did not have, you never see the killer. They're not teenagers. There is a certain subgenre of the When a Stranger Calls type subgenre, or the Don't Go in the Basement subgenre, that I think it started. But I don't think I could check all the boxes on Black Christmas, even though, you know, definitely a foundational film for something. But that's 1973. That's still a year later than Sergio Martino's Torso. So see, you can talk about this stuff forever and argue about it, and but I think the important thing is who created a style that everybody wanted to copy. To me, that's what first means. That's what it's. The question should be the foundation film or the foundation style or whatever. So there were guys before Hitchcock. You know, there were guys making that type of thriller before Hitchcock, but Hitchcock gets the credit because, you know, he took it to a level that everybody wanted to emulate. So, okay, now we can either take, I don't know how much time we have left, but we can either take questions, you can elaborate on these.
I can do random ass questions if you want.
On these 10 things, or whatever you guys want to do.
It's fine.
As I said, we just kind of threw this together at the last second, but
Very much so.
yeah.
You kind of alluded to this earlier. Last year, John Carpenter said in regards to elevated horror, I don't even know what that is. So my question is, is it worth having elevated horror, cosmic horror, or any of those terms, subgenres?
Well, I want to know what people mean when they're using
Once
that
you
term.
start.
I just want to know what people mean when they use the term.
Is Jaws
I think it may have
elevated horror?
been created by the A24 publicity department to make sure that they got future victims. But
He asked if Jaws counts as elevated horror.
no. No, Jaws is just good old-fashioned horror.
All right.
You know.
Any other questions? Tag. Shit. Anything?
Die Hard is elevated horror. It's in a high-rise.
Dear God.
It's not really a question, it's a comment on what you just said. I feel like cosmic horror as a term is way more fair than elevated, because cosmic, at least there's like a scene around Lovecraft and the circle of writers around him that did solidify on like one particular style. But with elevated horror, what I think is stupid is that like people put Hereditary in the same category as like Jordan Peele, and I fucking love Hereditary. Like Hereditary is my favorite horror movie of all time. I am kind of one of the pretentious ass motherfuckers that I mentioned earlier. But I also like other horror as well. But I think with like elevated horror, the thing that is annoying is that there's no particular style. Literally, just the term is just like, this horror is better than every other kind of horror that's ever existed before.
Yeah.
Right. But I think people use elevated horror because they don't like horror.
Yes.
They say, I like this movie, but I don't like horror. I'm not into horror movies. It's sort of like, what would be an example? You know, I hate country music, but I like this one singer. He sort of identifies himself as country. You know, it's kind of a thing like that. I mean, in my opinion, it's kind of a snob thing. But you go ahead.
We don't feel like you're a snob, it's okay.
Self-identified as a snob.
You're a nice snob.
Just,
Who?
I can build on it. I can build on it.
Okay, build on it.
Yeah, just to build on what you said, I feel like it really comes from the term psychological horror, which they decided is what Scream came out, and suddenly that did really well, and it's like the general populace loves Scream, so critics were like, it's not horror, it's psychological horror, because, you know, horror sucks, as everyone knows, so it's psychological horror. And I feel like nowadays, the term they just have adopted is elevated horror, and it's the same thing where it's like, well, it's still horror. Like, let's all still acknowledge the redheaded middle child, or whatever they call it. But yeah, it's literally where that comes from, is the
You
I
can
hate
have,
that term.
yeah, but you can have great psychological horror that's not elevated horror.
I agree. It's just what the critics used to call. No, I don't want to take up so much time. I'm just saying that's what the critics would use that term so that the general populace would buy into it. Like, oh, it's not
Okay.
horror. It's a psychological. It's a thriller. It's like, oh, cool, yeah, it's those things, but it's also a horror film.
You know where you can see the best psychological horror? Lifetime Movie of the Week. You know how when Lifetime started out and it was always evil men abusing women? Once they discovered that evil women abusing other women is a much better plot device, those psychological horror films became really, really good. And the devious nature of the women they create on the Lifetime network is kind of scary.
She actually reminded me of something I would say is fighting words.
Okay.
When you call a pure, beautiful horror film a comedy,
No.
which a lot of people say about Scream, and I will fucking fight you on that one. So, it just because it has some humor does not make it a comedy.
Satire.
Killer Clowns from Outer Space?
That could be a comedy. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but certain ones should not be labeled that.
I mean, there are a lot of great horror films that have comedy in them. Reanimator.
I'm not asking that, that's not the point. Although if you say Reanimator is a straight up comedy, we will fight. That's not okay either. Does it have some humor?
Basket
Absolutely.
Case.
No. No, I take Basket Case seriously.
A lot of comedy in Basket Case.
Yes, but not. It's horror.
I think the rule of thumb should be 80% horror, 20% comedy. If you go 50-50, you sort of lose the audience. If you go 50% comedy, 50% horror, then you're like, what the fuck am I watching? And
Some people like that. Some people like their comedy with a little bit of horror.
a little bit of horror.
I like the horror with a little bit of comedy.
Okay, well, but comedy with a little bit of horror is like Saturday the 14th.
That's cool. It's just, I would not call that a horror.
No, it's a comedy. It's a bad comedy. Okay.
It's fun.
Anybody else have any questions about anything? Yeah, there's two people
Where?
right there in the 7th row.
Like a counting hat. Come on.
I have an 11th. You had 10. I have an 11th in terms of fighting words.
Okay.
I want to say this as a wounded soul who sat through Troll 2. And there's people. No, it's not. A little boy stands on a table and urinates on food to save his family. No, that's not great. That's not great. That's at best that's fetish. But would you help me out by drawing a line between? So I've known too many people who say, "Oh, it's so bad, it's good." No, terrible and it's just garbage and stop making a case for it. Could you draw a line between so bad it's good and garbage that one could call?
Yes, I'm not a big so bad it's good fan. If it's a genuine statement of some kind, that a filmmaker was serious when he made the film, then I'm going to treat it as a film, as a real film, no matter how bad it may turn out to be. But the people who intentionally go into a production trying to make a cult film by making it, quote, so bad it's good, those tend to really suck. I mean, you're not ever really able to make one from that superior position where you're like making fun of your own material. And so I guess what I'm saying is, before we go to so bad it's good, and you know what those films are. I mean, those are in the Hall of Fame. There's the So Bad It's Good Hall of Fame. But before we put them in the So Bad It's Good Hall of Fame, let's treat them as serious films and sincere films. And then when they sort of go out of style and it's like it's from another era and it doesn't make sense anymore and everything, then they go into the so bad it's good category. But I still think that's like, that should be like background stuff playing on the TV in the bar. I don't want to go to a film festival and see 3 of those in a row.
Good job. Any other questions? It can be about like literally anything. That's fine. Okay, come meet me. I got you.
Okay, so cheap jump scares are necessary for human society.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there are still, when I first started reviewing movies, everything was written and directed at the male viewer because the male viewer bought the tickets. And even though most horror films were made for an audience of say 16 to 24-year-olds, and who were on dates, but the male bought the tickets, and so everything in horror was directed at the male. That's all changed. There's no more distinction. There's no marketing guy who would tell you that anymore. And so I think that jump scares. First of all, you can't end the movie with jump scares. So you're probably not going to remember those anyway. But I understand what you're saying. What?
Oh, yes, you can. There's
Oh,
a
what
lot
is that?
of really
Carrie?
good ones. There's Carrie. There's what? Pieces. Friday the 13th. There's
Pieces?
Pieces. I was thinking of one of those. Cabin in the Woods is good. Yeah,
All right,
you can.
I stand corrected. If that made you jump. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. I realize I'm probably going to be carried out of here and thrown into Pine Avenue when I say this, but I'm not sure I agree with you that Jaws would be considered a horror movie.
What?
Only because, granted, shark attacks are horrifying and all that kind of thing, so you can definitely watch the movie through the lens or through the prism of a horror. But you even mentioned Die Hard, but by the same reasoning, one could make the argument that Home Alone is a horror movie because it's a horror. You could argue that Raiders of the Lost Ark is a horror movie because you see faces melting and so forth. Again, it could be seen through the prism of horror, but I doubt it could be classified per se as a horror. And now let's set my face.
But
It's really good.
But when you have a shark that's bigger than any shark that's ever existed in nature
No.
and has a brain of a serial killer, then you have a horror movie, not a sharks might be dangerous movie.
But is it the brain brain of a serial killer, or is it just the feeding instinct, which granted maybe turned up to 11, but it's still a natural feeding instinct you'd expect from a shark nonetheless?
Well, I guess the argument you're making is Moby Dick a horror movie? You know, same thing. You know, it's an animal that's been so twisted beyond its normal limits that it's crazy, and it seeks human things like revenge. You know, I don't know if you remember Jaws 4, but in Jaws 4, the shark actually goes from Massachusetts down to the Bahamas just so that it can eat Michael Caine's family.
Moby Dick, it's probably more of a psychological horror. You see the
You think it's more about Captain Ahab than it is about
Ahab,
the...
exactly. He's the
than
one
it is
that's
about the
going
whale.
down this rabbit hole and sacrificing everything. Which, granted, in a way, it's horrifying, but it's
But the whale has supernatural strength, and so, I don't know. It's like, you know, I think Jaws is a version of Moby Dick. But anyway, I think it's definitely a horror film because you can't win. You can't defeat it. I mean, they do sort of win at the end. What?
They do, though.
After a bunch of people are dead.
So what?
Okay.
Anyone else? Feedback?
I would argue that the most important element of any horror film is the sense of inevitability and dread. That no matter what these people do, through no fault of their own, are thrown into a situation, and that the end result is inevitable, and no matter what they do, they have to go up against it. That's why Jaws, I would argue, is not a horror, because all you have to do is not go in water.
Except
Also, our argument is that, well, mine anyway, the scariest movie ever made is It Follows.
Okay.
Glad we said that last part.
We're also not making a distinction between the horror film that has a supernatural element and the horror film that's just realistic, like home invasion movies or like Hostel or something, you know. And
Why do you keep going back to Hostel?
huh?
Is Hostel a home invasion movie?
No. But that has no supernatural element to it. So
True.
but
I don't know. Ask your question.
But most horror films today do have a supernatural element to them. So.
I was going to make the argument that part of the reason that Jaws is so hard to classify is because it's the first half of the movie is a horror movie and the second half of the movie is an adventure movie.
Yes.
There's a big tonal shift as soon as he gets on the boat and they go out to go fishing, that even in the score with John Williams you can hear they're on an adventure. They're out to have fun, kind of, and catch a shark. Well, for Quinn's having fun. So, yeah, that's why I would say it's kind of hard to classify. And hot take, I have the same feelings for Poltergeist.
Poltergeist?
Yeah, I feel that there's a lot of adventure elements in that make tonal shifts in the movie. And yes, it is mostly a horror movie, but I think, yeah, that's the way I feel about that.
But that's where you have a huge supernatural element.
Yeah, supernatural, yeah, but supernatural adventure.
So what you're saying
It's a
it should be
quest.
called
They're
an
off to
adventure
save the
movie
little
instead of a
girl.
horror movie?
Yeah.
I have a pretty broad definition of horror, you know, that it can cover the psychological thriller and the movies like Poltergeist, certainly. Yeah.
I agree. Thank you.
I just want to say I like Jaws 3 better. That's all. That's all I have to say about that.
You like Jaws 3 better than Jaws?
Yes, I do.
Oh my God.
You're a horror about that one. There's no question.
We're not
Yeah.
twins anymore.
We're fighting.
We lost it at Girl Scouts. Oh, I see. Back here. Oh, I saw him first. Sorry.
I knew this would get people started.
The problem is, if you discount Jaws as a horror film, you're pretty much discounting every animal attack film. Grizzly, piranha, tentacles, Cujo, it's Lake Placid, like granted, and there it's an extraordinarily large gator, but
alligator. The first three you mentioned are all Jaws ripoffs. They wouldn't even been made if it hadn't been for Jaws.
Right,
Yeah.
but you wouldn't count any of those as horror if Jaws isn't horror. If you're using that, but it's an animal. And again, in Jaws, if you just change one aspect of that and make it the creature from the Black Lagoon instead of a shark, suddenly it's horror, just by changing that one simple thing. So of course Jaws is horror.
Right. I mean, I guess you could study it from a marketing point of view too. It's like, what did they put on the poster? What were they telling you was going to happen
I
to
would
you?
just add that they spend so much time on the non-horror aspects, like the relationship with the dudes and stuff like that, that I could see where that would negate the horror to some people.
No.
Versus a Jaws 3, where you never have that. You just have shark. Just saying. Sir.